Welcome to a special edition of the Canine Campus podcast. I'm Stace Carter, and in a moment we'll be talking with Deven Gaston from the Annual Association of Professional Dog Trainers 2006 Educational Conference and Trade Show in Kansas City, Missouri. The conference will be running from September 13th through 17th, and for most of the conference, Deven will be checking in with the podcast on a daily basis to give you details on what's happening in Kansas City. We'll be talking about new products, literature, emergent studies in canine behavior, and of course, the barbecue scene in KC. Here's the nickel tour from the APDT website. The APDT has assembled a wonderful array of dog wizards to gather the latest resources on behavior studies, training methods, health, nutrition, first aid for pets, and business development sessions for trainers. If you couldn't make it to Kansas City this year, stay tuned to our podcast this week for highlights from the conference and visit the APDT website at apdT.com for links and resources. First, here's some quick news and a correction from our previous shows before we check in with Deven. Listeners from our last two podcasts have asked us where they can purchase the Sensation Harness and the Gentle Leader. Good news, you can now order these products as well as the Premier Pet Products food toys mentioned in our series on adult and adolescent obedience directly from the Canine Campus website. Just go to caninecampus.com and click on Store just above the Sheltie wearing the iPod. You'll find a great assortment of products that'll make you and your hound happy, and you'll be supporting our podcast. Our thanks to Garrett in Vista, California, who made the inaugural purchase on the Canine Campus store. Garrett, your merch is on the way. In an upcoming show, we'll be discussing a question on leash aggression that was posed by a listener in Sweden, and we want to encourage you to participate in the show. You can leave a voice message on our homepage at caninecampus.com, send us an email, or feel free to send us an audio file of your question. And before we get on the phone with Deven, a quick correction from our previous two shows. We had directed our listeners to the Association of Professional Dog Trainers website via apdt.org. Turns out we were sending you to the website for the Asociación Portuguesa para o Desenvolvimento de Teletrabajo. We don't know what that means in English, but we apologize to both our listeners and the Asociación for the misdirected web traffic and the poor pronunciation. You can get to the APDT website that deals with dog training at apdt.com. Hey Deven, how are things going out in Kansas City?
Things are going great in Kansas City. There is so much amazing information floating around the convention hall for everyone, whether you're new to dog training, whether you've been doing this for a while. It's been fabulous. So my head is swimming.
And I understand you were able to attend 3 sessions today. What was the first one, and what did you find out?
Okay, the first session I attended was Susan Garrett's, and it was called Drive, Building, Controlling, and Maintaining It. And Susan Garrett is a big-time competitor in agility and a little bit of obedience. She's world-renowned, and she has succeeded mightily using positive methods.
Right, and now I understand Susan has a new book out, is that correct?
Susan, it's not actually a new book. She has 2 books out. One of them is called Ruff, R-U-F-F, Love, and that's kind of like for the average dog owner.
Right.
And then her other book, which has been out for a couple years, is called Shaping Success.
Okay.
And the education of an unlikely champion, and that was how she trained sort of a very challenging border collie to be a champion. She also has some DVDs out. I understand they're wonderful, and she's going to have a new DVD out by Christmas. So I recommend, if anyone's interested in this, check out her website, which is clickerdogs.com. But essentially, I mean, the big message here for me today, from, it's all kind of overwhelming, is she really teaches dogs to play with her and before any obedience training, before anything like that. She gets a dog, for the first 15 months of their life, to learn to play with her really interactively. And there's rules to play, and I can't get into that right now. Those are in the book.
Right.
But all of this play motivates a dog to interact with you and think working with you is the best thing possible, so that when you start working on obedience and agility, you don't have to worry about distractions. Your dog already thinks you're the funnest thing in the world. And one of the things that I really, like, my overall message from this particular seminar was, if games and play are put on cue, then obedience cues become nothing more than versions of game and play. Right? It's all play to the dog.
Right.
All play to the dog. Now, something that I thought was really interesting and germane to us is if your dog ends play. So we have a dog that fetches.
Right.
To play fetch.
Yeah.
And likes to just kind of cut out in the middle of it, too, and just
he
stop.
always sort of inevitably just says, okay, I've had enough fetch, and he just turns around and walks away. Well, that's teaching him that it's okay to make that choice when we ask him to sit, too.
Right.
So I thought
so
really
to end a behavior on their terms, not ours.
Right. This don't wanna, don't have to is what Susan calls it. This,
Right.
I don't wanna, I don't have to. And you don't overcome that with force. You overcome that with being more playful and more fun and tapping into their prey drive and their play drive. And, oh, you don't want to play with me? Well, I'm the funnest thing in the world, and I'm going over here, and I'm going to have fun without you.
This is taking positive reinforcement to a whole new level.
Oh, it's an entirely new level. And my good friend Patty, who I'm hoping, of course, will be on a future podcast,
right.
She did a dog camp with Susan. Susan has these month-long dog camps.
Oh, okay.
And for the most part, I think competitors participate in them, although I don't know enough. I mean, I don't want to say pet dog owners don't as well. But
Right. But if you're in a competitive, obedience or rallyo, something like that, this could really work in the ring for you.
Patty came back from a camp, and her head was spinning, and she was like, Deven, I'm thinking about positive training in a whole new way. And that's what I think is so exciting about Susan Garrett, is she takes these tried and true principles of positive training, the classical conditioning, which, of course, Pavlov gave us, and then Skinner's operant conditioning, and she applies them in such creative and natural ways. And she worked with one of her young dogs today, Encore, that she hasn't even really started doing obedience with, and yet she had more focus and manners and intensity and interest and fun with this dog than most of us get with our dog in a lifetime, and she's incredibly impressive.
Wow, amazing. So that's Susan Garrett at clickerdogs.com. Her new books are Rough Love, or not her new books, but her books that are out right now, Rough Love, Shaping Success. I believe there's another one on dogwise.com. We'll have links to those on our show notes at caninecampus.com. What was the next thing you saw today, Deven?
The next thing I saw was Dr. James Chappell, PhD from the University of Pennsylvania, and his seminar was on understanding aggression in dogs. And he was part of the scientific track. So when you're at the APDT, each seminar is either a NTD new to dog training seminar, intermediate dog training seminar, or scientific track. And he was a scientific track, so he was coming to present the results of a study he'd done on aggression.
Okay.
And very interesting stuff, sort of outlined the scientific method when you're performing research. And the end result of this seminar was the development by the folks at the University of Pennsylvania of a new behavior assessment questionnaire.
Right.
And this questionnaire is actually available to the general public. It's available to dog trainers and behaviorists as well.
This is an ongoing study.
It's an ongoing study, and actually they want anyone that's having aggression or behavior issues with their dog, they would love for you to go and fill out the questionnaire. It's 101 questions. It takes about 15 minutes.
Right.
Anyone that lives with the dog on a daily basis can fill out the questionnaire. If you're a pet owner and you're filling it out, the results will be either mailed or emailed to you. If you're working with a behaviorist or a vet, the results will be mailed to them. And really fascinating stuff. I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges in aggression is that none of us can clarify our terms.
Right.
So very often we use functional descriptors to describe cases of aggression. What I mean by that is dominance aggression. And terms like that would infer that we know the dog's motivation.
Right.
And one of the examples he used is, okay, let's say you have a dog, and whenever you approach the dog, it growls at you, the owner. If you try to walk over, walk around, go near it when it has food, it growls at you. And so it's very easy for us to say, well, that must be dominance aggression.
Right.
But what his questionnaire can reveal that perhaps other more traditional histories can't is that perhaps this dog has tremendous back pain. And so your approach scares the dog into thinking he'll be hurt, because every time that you trip over him or touch him, it actually causes him pain. So is he growling out of dominance, or is he growling out of pain? So the suggestion is to really switch to a descriptive classification system for aggression. And some examples of that are owner-directed aggression, stranger-directed aggression, dog-directed aggression. So with descriptive classification system, very often the target of the aggression is noted.
So when we're talking about descriptive classification, are we describing the context of behavior, the behavior itself? What kind of questions are asked, and what kind of answers do I get back when I fill out the survey?
Using the descriptive classification system and the behavioral assessment based on that, they're two separate things. The descriptive classification system does not infer any motivation on the part of the dog. It's purely descriptive. And for the most part, it describes the target of the dog's aggressive behavior. You know, when I say owner-directed aggression, that lets you know, okay, well, the aggression is directed at the owner, but it's not inferring any motivation on the dog.
I see, okay. So it's far more objective, really.
It's more objective, it's more scientific, and this guy's a scientist, so of course, you know, this makes sense to him. And he created this questionnaire because he wanted to study aggression in dogs, and of course, the questionnaire is based on all of these scientific principles that I personally cannot get into right now and only understood about a third of. But anyway, he's at uPenn, so I'm assuming the man knows stuff. And basically, he gave this survey to breed clubs because he really wanted to see, you know, is there something to this notion of aggression in breeds? And as it turns out, there probably really isn't. So the reason why I'm bringing this up to everyone is this questionnaire is available to you. So if you're having a behavior issue, particularly if there's aggression involved, you can go and you can fill out this questionnaire. It takes about 15 minutes. It's absolutely free of charge. They're compiling this database to try to get accurate data. So you're absolutely free of charge. You put the information in, and you are emailed or mailed the results. And like I said, if you're working with a vet or a behaviorist, they get the results. And I'm not suggesting that this replace a traditional history that a vet or a trainer or behaviorist would take when evaluating your case. So when you call a trainer or a vet and say you're having these issues, we come out and we take a history. You know, when does this occur? How often have you seen it? When did it start? That kind of stuff. So this isn't replacing that. It's really augmenting that.
So this can complement that. You as a behaviorist or a vet can get this from a client's input and kind of get another picture of what the situation might be. And aside from that, you're also contributing to this larger database of behavioral observations that are helping determine things by breed, things by environment, and kind of you got this larger collective pool of information.
One of the biggest issues facing pet dog owners today is something called breed-specific legislation, SL. And in Kansas City, in fact, the very city that we're having this seminar, pit bulls are outlawed. And in Denver, I know they are too, just because we had a seminar.
Which was where APDT was last year, right?
Year before last.
Okay.
And so what studies like this can show is there's really nothing behind that.
And if there is, if there is or if there isn't, it can help nail it down.
Well, what's interesting, too, is that most of the existing evidence that we have is based on breed-specific bite rates for clinical cases and that were referred for the treatment for aggressive behavior problems. Now, both of these sources of evidence are inherently unreliable because either in the case of breed-specific bite rates, they don't take into account local variation in breed popularity. So if you live in a city where there's 100 times more pit bulls than any other dog, of course you're going to see 100 times more bite cases.
And that's what Malcolm Gladwell wrote in the New Yorker on just a few months ago.
Exactly. And, you know, clinical samples tend to be biased towards larger and therefore more dangerous breeds. In other words, are you going to go to a behaviorist if your 5-pound Yorkie is biting you?
Right.
Versus your 80-pound Rottweiler.
Right, exactly.
It's more
of
likely
course.
you're going to seek help if you have a bigger, more powerful breed, so they're going to be overrepresented in the data.
Right. So the uPenn study kind of helps eliminate these kind of underreported and overreported data.
I mean,
Excellent.
we're actually trying to get more scientific and less subjective.
Right.
Because, I mean, the bottom line here is, and I think that this is critical for everyone to know, there's aggressive behavior problems are directly responsible for approximately 25% of shelter relinquishments,
right,
and are probably the leading cause of premature canine mortality in the country.
Yeah. Mm.
So, you know, we've got to start understanding this problem from other viewpoints other than subjective.
Right, and it sounds like Chappelle's questionnaire and study in the larger picture can really help us accomplish that.
And we can all be part of it, which is so
excellent.
Cool. I mean, they're trying to help everyone, and I think it's really, really exciting stuff, and I think that it's so cool that they're inviting us all to participate. I really do. It's
what a scientific study is all about. And Deven, do you have this is available on the internet? Is that correct?
Yes. The website for this is www.vet.upenn with 2 N's .edu/C as in Charles and then Bark BARQ. And that will actually take you to the questionnaire. There's all sorts of information there, but you don't have to go there and fill out the questionnaire. You can read more about this. But if you are someone that is wrestling with an aggression issue in your own life, or you're helping other people, this could be a really valuable tool for you.
Great.
Not replacing any of your existing tools, but once again, augmenting the tools you already have in your toolbox.
Exactly. And if you do have a behavioral issue, this will ask you some of the good questions that you can bring to a behavior consultant, a vet, etc. And we'll have a link to that website via uPenn at caninecampus.com.
I want to make clear, this is just not for the pet dog owner. If you're a trainer, go check it out. This is where you can refer your clients and get more information. So my hope is, while I think it's great if pet dog people use this, I think it's really essential that the professional community, the trainers, the vets, and the behaviorists get on board too.
And so also, I understand you hit the wet labs today.
I hit a wet lab. A wet lab is when something is demonstrated with dogs. They're small. There's no more than 25 people there. And the wet lab that I hit today was for Premier Pet Products, and I've talked about them in the past. They're the manufacturer of the Gentle Leader and Easy Walk harness that I talked about a lot on my Loose Leash Walking podcast.
Yeah.
And I hooked up with my good friend Janet there, and she's the training and behavior education specialist, and she debuted some fabulous new products. I'm so excited.
Oh, great.
So let me get right to those. The first one is something called Cool Dogs, and it's an ice treat maker. And essentially, it's this big stainless steel container that you freeze treats in. You fill it with water, and you freeze anything you want in there. You can freeze stuffed Kongs in there.
Mm-hmm.
You can freeze kibbles, liver treats. You can freeze a whole slew of things. And you basically take it outside, and it sits on this form that you stake into the ground. And for 2 or 3 hours, your dog has something to lick and occupy them. And what's so great about it is it entertains, it hydrates, it cools, and it treats. So your dog's getting rewarded for being creative and persistent. And, gives you a break. So I think that's kind of a hoot.
It's a giant doggy popsicle, it sounds like.
It's a giant doggy popsicle,
okay.
And we all know how much we love popsicles.
Yeah.
Then they have, which I think is kind of a gas, cats are starting to get kind of hot, and because what's happened is more and more cats are staying indoors. So we're starting to see more behavior problems with cats because they're not getting to do what they really sort of naturally do. So they have a Gentle Leader Come With Me Kitty harness and leash. It's an absolute hootenanny. It works like a Gentle Leader for dogs. It's a harness, so it doesn't go over the dog's nose.
And have they tried this on a cat? I mean...
Oh, yes. They test these products out. They went to the Richmond SPCA and put it on hundreds of cats there.
Great.
And their big thing was to make sure cats could not squiggle out of it. And it has this lovely cradling effect when cats pull. And the leash that comes with it is a really delicate kind of bungee cord. It's a hoot, man.
Interesting.
I mean,
Very cool.
I think it's an absolute gas.
Yeah.
And apparently some people are using it for petite dogs. We're not supposed to recommend it.
Right,
but apparently some people have had great success with that.
Wow.
Then there's a product called the Wonder Walker.
Okay.
And for those of us who've ever been to the vet or boarding or grooming, you probably recognize the slip collar, which is just a leash with a D-ring on it that they slip over your dog's head, and they usually give you the collar.
Right.
Well, the Wonder Walker is kind of a gentle leader version of that. It would be very easy for vets, groomers, to slip over their dog's head and nose. It's one piece, and it mimics what the gentle leader does. So it's not meant to replace the gentle leader, but I think it would be a great way to introduce people to the idea of the gentle leader, because I have clients that are definitely resistant to it. They don't like the way it looks. They think it's a muzzle, whatever. And this is kind of a lovely way to introduce it. I also, may I say, was honored to meet Dr. R.K. Anderson, who is the co-creator, along with Ruth Foster, of the Gentle Leader. He's a lovely gentleman whose goal, he told me before he dies, is to make sure that no dogs are in buckle, choke, or prong collars, because he can't stand the choking and tracheal damage that results from that. So
Dr. Anderson is a great man.
He's a vet, and he invented the Gentle Leader like 20 years ago, and Premier got on board with him and has expanded his products. There's also, as we discussed, the Easy Walk harness, but what an honor to meet him. What a lovely man. And it was so great to be able to say to him, thank you so much for changing so many dogs' lives, because, boy, he sure has.
That's fantastic.
Now, last but not least, there's new Busy Buddy food toys.
Oh, really?
Okay. Future podcasts on food toys, which are one of my all-time favorite ways to occupy dogs. As I've told people in one of my first podcasts, our dogs don't really eat out of a bowl. They eat out of food toys. We make the play work for the food that they get. And so, as I said, future podcasts will talk about existing food toys, but there's some really neat new ones coming out. One of them is this tug toy where half the tug rope is in a bulletproof plastic jar that has holes in the bottom of it, and you fill the jar with treats, and you shut the bottom so the dog can smell that the treats are in there. And what's so neat is when they tug with you and interact with you, the tug toy pulls the treats out a hole.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, it's way cool. And then they have these sort of nylabone-like combo Kong treats that you use with what they're calling rawhide, this compressed rawhide that dogs chew, and it almost looks like washers that you screw on either side of the rubber toy in the middle with these nylabone screws. It sounds complicated. It's not delightful. I know our dogs are going to love it.
Well, the thing I've always liked about what they have at Premier is that, what they have really works well. The dogs love it. It's very inventive. It's very durable. I don't know where Janet and her people get their ideas, but
they actually talked about that today. That's what was so cool. They get a huge amount of their ideas from their customers, and that is, they do not sell directly to the public for the most part. You have to get it through trainers and retailers,
like the CanineCampus.com website,
like Canine Campus. But there's big national chains that carry their stuff too. And I've loved Premier for years. The founder of Premier, founded in Richmond, Virginia. She basically sewed some collars for her greyhounds so they wouldn't slip out of her collars.
Wow.
So the Martingale was her first big product, and since then the company's really grown and thrived. And I'll tell you, they're good people, and what I thought was really interesting is almost everyone in that wet lab today, they were already dedicated Premier customers for the most part.
For good reason.
Everyone talks about how amazing the customer service was, and that's really something that's lost in today's world.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I've only experienced excellent customer service, so I'm so excited because they do listen to their clients.
Right.
They do listen to what we say, and the end result are some really fabulous products. Some are not available yet.
Right. But coming out soon, without a doubt. So, I think if we have the chance, let's get Janet on a podcast pretty soon. That would be a lot of fun.
That's my hope.
Excellent.
That's my hope,
Excellent.
is to get her on there and to talk about all the stuff, how products are created and what products they're really excited about for the coming year and what products we can be on the lookout for.
That's great, Deven. And of course, one last question. How's the barbecue out in Kansas City?
Okay. Barbecue, fabulous. I hit... The barbecue place that everyone ran and raved about was Jack Stack. So I hit that last night, and it was delightful. I was swimming in barbecue.
I'll tell the listeners that you actually sent me a photo of the dead soldiers, the bones on your plate after dinner.
It's kind of embarrassing, the before and after shots of the barbecues that arrived and when I was done with it. But Kansas City comes by its reputation, honestly. I can say that. They've got some good barbecue here, no doubt.
Oh, fantastic.
So I'm going to be at 3 seminars tomorrow. Very excited about that, to call in and let you know what I learned tomorrow.
Excellent.
So exciting.
Excellent. Well, I know we have a lot to look forward to. We'll post that next, I guess tomorrow night we'll be posting that podcast. Again, tonight, the Susan Garrett books, she's at clickerdogs.com. We've got Ruff, Love the book. We've got Shaping Success. We'll have links to those on the website. We have the uPenn questionnaire from Dr. Chappelle that we'll have on our website, so you can help kind of contribute to the larger knowledge base of behavior issues.
And get a fresh perspective on your dog's issues.
Exactly. And of course, the wet labs with Premier, we'll be adding those products that are newly available to our website as soon as they come out.
And be on the lookout for them in local stores in your area. And if you can't find a store in your area, call Premier. Mm-hmm. They have a website, and go ahead and give them a call and say, look, who is a dealer in my area? Or you can always search on the web, too. Right.
Or, if you can't find it anywhere else, go to caninecampus.com. We'll get it for you. So, great, Deven. Thanks a lot. We're looking forward to hearing from you tomorrow night. We have one more final treat. The music that you've heard on this show is courtesy of our friends on the PodShow, Podsafe Music Network. We'll have links to all of those artists in our show notes. Just go to caninecampus.com and click on the dog with the iPod. Check them out at music.podshow.com. Here's Lee Maddeford with The Devil and His Dog. We'll see you in our next show live from the 2006 APDT Annual Conference on the Canine Campus podcast. Thanks, Deven.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
It was a rainy day in hell when the devil took his dog for a walk. And the devil said, Ralph, what am I gonna do? Business is slow and I'm a-getting the blues. Business is slow and I'm a-getting the blues. And still the rain came tumbling down. Ralph looked at his master and said, Devil man, I know you are kind, but you should talk to God and tell him what's on your mind. And give that old God a piece of your mind, 'cause he's got all those angels working for him. I've heard he's even got men who have never sinned. Give him a call, stand straight and tall. You gotta fight for what you believe in. Now the devil, it wasn't no fool, and he looked at his dogs, they're real cool, and he said, Ralph, you were my best friend. I'll take your advice, we'll see what happens in the end. Yes, I'll take your advice, we'll see what happens in the end. And God was at home when he called. He said, Devil man, how are you doing? Why don't you come for tea this afternoon? Yes, I've heard that you're not doing well, but if you come work for me, I'll get you out of that hell. If you come and work for me, I'll get you out of that hell. 'Cause I've got all these angels working for me. I know they'll help you out and be sure it's for free. Sit on that chair, don't move a head, just try to feel what I believe in. Wait a sec, the devil, he said. We've been through this before, and I think the subject is dead. And yes, you are my oldest friend, and I know you mean well, but you and I ain't a blend. Yes, I know crawl, prepared to leave. He said, thank you, God, for proving what I am, but I can't stay with you. See, I can't be a sham. I can't stay with you. I'll just have to stay damned.